What is going on, everybody? Frank Corva here, host of these Fedi Community Chat sessions, joined today by two very special guests. The first of which is Maciej Cepnik, the co-founder of La Casa de Satoshi in Mexico. Super excited to have you here with us, Maciej. Welcome. And the other guest we have, a member of the Fedi team, Viv, we call her Vivian Pedro. She's joining us, I believe, from Brazil. She is a Fedi Knight that recently brought on Fedi Night. So we're super excited to have Viv with us. Viv, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. Good to have you here. And Maciej, how are you doing? How's everything in Mexico?
I'm doing great as well, and everything is good. Yes, thank
Excellent.
you for the invitation.
The pleasure is all ours, and we appreciate your patience. We had some slight technical difficulties before getting started today, but here we are making it happen, and quite excited to have Maciej with us and to have Viv with us. Maciej, I want to start with you, though, if you don't mind. You've been doing a lot of work in the Bitcoin space in recent years. Obviously, this work with La Casa de Satoshi, which we're going to get into in just a moment, but we all love a good Bitcoin story. Would love to hear how you first came to Bitcoin and then found your way into working in the Bitcoin space.
Yeah, for sure. The classic question, but it's important to answer it.
Yeah.
So I started in the Bitcoin space in 2015, 2016. I'm originally born in Montreal, so I lived my whole life in Montreal, and there was a really strong Bitcoin community there. So as soon as I started, buying a little bit of Bitcoin, starting getting interested. I also bought some altcoins, obviously, but even if I made a little bit of money, I had the chance to meet the Bitcoin community in Montreal, which was really strong and is one of the longest running Bitcoin communities in the world. So basically, I had the chance to, being put on the right path since the beginning. And rapidly, I also started being a Bitcoin entrepreneur in the space. So my first kind of venture that I had was a Bitcoin mining company. But then at that time in Quebec, the French province of Canada, there was some restrictions with the government in regards of the mining industry. So that didn't work. So me and my partners started a Bitcoin exchange in Canada. This went quite well for a while. But then we moved to Mexico. All the co-founders of my previous company and the previous company right now. So I started living in Mexico about 5 years ago. Again, I never forgot about Bitcoin. I used to work in the industry. I used to work at Bitrefill. And then 2 years ago, I moved to Mexico City. Almost 3 years ago, I moved to Mexico City. And that's when La Casa de Satoshi was starting at the same time, which was originally founded by Santiago Varela Belmont, another Bitcoiner that is really involved, and a bunch of other members of the community. And he asked us and me if we want to join La Casa. And it was a no-brainer. So that's a short story to resume 10 years, but that's more or less how it happened.
Amazing. Very, very cool. So, okay. So, most of your time in Montreal, but spending some time in Mexico now. Do you feel like you've completely adjusted to life in Mexico?
No, I'm completely living in Mexico. I'm a permanent resident.
Cool.
I have my whole life here. Obviously, I visit Montreal to visit my family and my friends, maybe 1 or 2 times a year. But my life is here now, so I'm in the process of fully becoming a Mexican. So
Cool.
culturally wise and in all other sides as well.
Amazing. Very, very cool. Um, a follow-up question there. If maybe you could tell us a bit more about La Casa de Satoshi. I've heard of it. I don't know a ton about it personally, and I do tend to try to follow these sorts of hubs that pop up around the world and become places for education and community. So if you could give us a brief history of it, and then maybe kind of bring us up to speed on what you guys are doing on a day in, day out basis.
Yeah, for sure. So La Casa de Satoshi is many things at the same time. It's a physical space in Mexico City, really close to all the touristic centers and all the basically in the middle of Mexico City. And it started with the branding like the house of freedom tech, freedom technology. So we mostly talk about Bitcoin.
Oh, it seems that we lost Maciej, unless that's just me. Okay, we're back.
He's back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
you said we mostly talk about Bitcoin. Let's go right. We'll pick up right from there.
Yeah, so we mostly talk about Bitcoin like 90% of the time, but sometimes we talk about Nostr, another, not a philosophy about liberty, this kind of stuff. So it's also a co-working space. So if there is like Bitcoiners passing by Mexico City, and there's a lot, we received the visit of many non-Bitcoiners. Obi as well visited our offices. So we're lucky to also receive some international Bitcoiners whenever they're in town and they need to work a little bit. They can come and pay some sats to come work there, have a coffee, have a chat about the Bitcoin community. And then we do at least 2 events per month, like basic events. One is a Bitcoin 101 series, which is basically events talking a little bit more for beginners, like talking about the philosophy of Bitcoin, some financial aspects, and then we have a Bit Devs, which is led by my friend and co-founder of my company. But he also his name is Gustavo Flores, and he's also the writer of the Bitcoin Uptech newsletter. So basically, we have a really advanced and really good bid devs that is held every month at La Casa de Satoshi, because we believe there's still a lot of people that are not involved from the technical point of view in Mexico. So we believe it's really important. So we have these two like basic events, but we also sometimes have Bitcoin cultural events, as you may know, like Bitcoin Pizza Day. Some celebrations. The other day we had the Tianguis de Bitcoin, so a Bitcoin market. So we do 2 events per month, and then every once in a while we also have a big event where the goal is to use Bitcoin more actively as money and to demonstrate that Bitcoin is not only boring presentations, right? You can actually learn mostly by using it. So that's
Right.
more or less what we do.
I bring up this quote a lot on the show. Andreas Antonopoulos, one of the OG Bitcoin educators, Bitcoin is better experience than having it explained to you. And I think that, yeah, if we have too many presentations on Bitcoin, it just feels like we're in Bitcoin school, and that's no fun at all. It's more fun to definitely use it and to engage with it a little bit more. Very, very cool. Impressive how quickly you guys have gotten things up and running at La Casa de Satoshi and how much traction you've gained. I also like to hear that I think it's really important that we don't underestimate people, in that it's good to teach them the technical side of things, because ideally people who have those proclivities and people who have those interests, we get them to gravitate over to Bitcoin versus going to work for some big whatever corporation or something. It's better to have them here in the open source development community. So I appreciate the fact that you guys are doing that work as well. I want to zoom out a little bit and talk about Bitcoin adoption in Mexico more broadly. So this is a question for Viv and for Maciej. Maciej, I'll start with you. Mexico Bitcoin, I hear certain things. I don't have as good of a read on what's happening in Mexico as I would like to. Now I know you guys are in Mexico City and it's difficult to speak to the whole of whatever is happening in Mexico. I know the work that Isabela is doing. I think it's in Isla Mujeres, if I'm not mistaken. She's kind of orange pilling a small island off the coast of Mexico. But other than that, what is happening in Mexico? What are some other good stories and some other good situations that are currently playing out in Mexico?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and I'm gonna be like as honest as possible. So the Bitcoin adoption in Mexico is really low at the moment. So when I came in 5 years ago, it was practically non-existent. Of course, there is Bitcoin ATMs. There is a big Bitcoin company called Bitso. that has few millions users, but people that probably invested in Bitcoin through that platform. It's like the Coinbase of Mexico. They're doing an amazing job, but probably most of these users have only invested a really small amount. So it's not a substantial Bitcoin adoption, and there's definitely not like a Bitcoin circular economies. There's not like a real places that accepts Bitcoin that much. But 2 years ago, exactly at the time when La Casa de Satoshi, and there's also crypto communities and all this stuff, obviously, but far behind than, for example, places in Europe or Canada or the United States. But 2 years ago, exactly when La Casa de Satoshi started, I'm not saying it's because of La Casa de Satoshi, but all over Mexico, there has been a bunch of Bitcoin communities popping up. So there's, for example, a developer community really focused on coding, Lightning in Guadalajara, the second biggest city in Mexico. There's La Casa de Satoshi. There's a community and a restaurant that accepts Bitcoin now in Puebla, Cholula, called La Carnivoria. There's La Isla Mujeres that obviously is making the headlines, I think, more from the international point of view. There is a community in Monterrey, third biggest city. So all at the same time, like mushrooms, like there's a bunch of Bitcoin communities that popped up, and everybody knows each other because Mexico is a big country, but at the end we're all friends. We all try to help each other, and I probably missed a few. So it's starting. But I think what makes Mexico different in terms of Bitcoin adoption is at the end, I know that Fedi, for example, is really focused on communities that are underserved, that are, don't have high economic means. So Bitcoin is really like a savior for them. And I'm not saying that in Mexico this doesn't exist, because definitely there's poverty, there's really impoverished communities. But in the end, the peso and the Mexican peso, the whole economy is relatively stable. So I think people still don't feel the urgent needs to really get interested to Bitcoin for example, Argentina, there's really high inflation. In Mexico, not that much, right? Or in Venezuela, there's a lot of control from the government, but in Mexico, you're relatively free, right? So I feel like people in Mexico, why Bitcoin adoption hasn't advanced so much is that people are kind of comfortable in some kind of sense, but more and more we're seeing it changing, because they also see what's happening outside of Mexico, and Mexico has its share of problems as well. So it's a complicated problem, complicated subject, but that's what I feel is happening with Bitcoin in general here.
I appreciate that substantial overview. And I think that it seems that right now, a lot of the communities that are adopting this, they're doing it out of more intellectual curiosity, or sort of they do understand it, but maybe they have the time and headspace to think through this. It's not necessarily coming out of a dire necessity. As you said, in places like Argentina and Venezuela, things are a little bit different on multiple fronts: the government front, inflation front, all of these things. Viv, I'm going to go over to you. I actually want to just give you a quick second before we comment on Mexico to maybe just introduce yourself and the work that you do at Fedi, if you don't mind. And then we'll dive into your read on Mexico and maybe how Mexico compares to some of the other Latin American countries that you're, where we're working with communities.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Viv. I'm a Fedi Knight leading growth and market expansion in Brazil. I've been in the community and the Bitcoin space for 7 years, working to turn complex technologies into something that people can understand and use. At Fedi, I'm here to expand that impact, bringing the freedom technology to people who need it the most. And Mexico, of course, is a place that we deeply care about. So I'm really happy to be here today. Talking about Bitcoin adoption in Mexico, it's really interesting what Maciej said, especially comparing Argentina and Venezuela, because I was reading about it the other day. and that's exactly correct for the crypto adoption in the country, because it's not driven mostly by inflation, it's driven by remittances. So it's about efficiency in moving money across borders at scale, basically. So of course, other things like financial inclusion and wealth preservation come into play, but being able to transfer funds globally to other family or friends or community members for a fraction of what would be what would cost for the traditional system makes all the difference. And that's one of the main reasons that we're so interested also in these communities in this region. It's because we want to enable community held Bitcoin wallets at lower costs and keep value within these families and groups to kind of really help them and enable them to do what they need.
Amazing. Is there any particular groups? I know that Maciej just mentioned a few different places, or any particular other places. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't want to be wrong here on air, but I will say this out loud. Lorena is from Mexico. No, am I mistaken to say this? Yeah. So Lorena also,
Yes.
our Fedi community master, and she had a bar there, I think, a while back. I don't know if it still exists. But is there any other group? So I'm sure Lorena has a soft spot in her heart for the country for this reason. Is there anything else that you hear from her about Mexico and the work that we're doing that's unique? I'm just kind of curious, Viv. And if no big deal. Just kind of something that came to mind there as you were talking.
Yeah, sure. So
Uh,
I've talked to her about. Sorry.
Yeah,
sorry,
that's okay.
sorry.
Let's go to Viv first, but Maciej, I'm going to come back to you because I also have more of a broader question for you about the work that Lorena does in Mexico and her vision and maybe for Mexico as well.
Amazing. So
Yeah.
yeah, I was talking to Lorena the other day about this, and she was telling me how like Mexico is a big country, so there's different needs depending on the community. But one thing that really strikes and sticks with people is the possibility of quickly and easily sending Bitcoin through chats and building mini apps for their own communities. So that really kind of, I think it connects well with the idea of remittances being the main use case for Mexico at the moment.
Okay. Very cool. Maciej, I'm going to come back to you. Please feel free to share that thought you were about to share, but maybe kind of combine it into a response to this question as well, which is that you just had Lorena there with you in Mexico. She was just there in town for an event called, I think it was Photo Blockchain, which was part of the Ledger Leaders Week. Can you tell us a bit about this? I watched some clips from the discussion that you had with her. I think you had her on either your personal podcast or the La Casa de Satoshi podcast. Some great clips. We were happy to share them via the Fedi social media handles as well. How did everything go? What did you learn from Lorena? Tell us maybe a little bit about her presentation, etc., if you don't mind.
Yes, big shout out to Lorena. She's also a dear friend, not only working in the Bitcoin industry. We're really good friends, and I met her at her bar when she had the bar, the Bitcoin Embassy bar.
Cool.
We were lucky. So like Casa de Satoshi is kind of like a continuation of what she has built for 5 years. So we
Oh,
didn't start from scratch. It was basically like a transition. I think a bar was a perfect place to really learn to use Bitcoin. So it was kind of an evolution, and since the beginning, Lorena has been supporting La Casa de Satoshi a lot, coming for presentations, always meeting the community, and so what she said in regards of developing mini apps and all that stuff, this is really true. So for example, in Mexico City, there's a big startup scene, there's a big interest for AI, for developing applications. So one of the things that we did a few months ago was to organize a mini hackathon with Aureo, La Casa de Satoshi, and a software school in Merida. And one of the proposition was for the winners of the hackathon, but not only the winners, but other great applications. For example, like a retirement calculator with Bitcoin was included in Fedi as a mini app, because Lorena was spotting some great opportunities to add inside of Fedi. So definitely, this side of Fedi is definitely something that she has been pushing, and she has been actively seeking application mini apps that can be included and really localized for specific Bitcoin communities or specific situations, right? So definitely, I don't know if I responded to the question or.
It was wonderful. No, it's great. I think it was a good mix of what Lorena is interested in, but also I think some further insights into Mexico. This kind of software tech development culture. I think that's great. Wasn't exactly what I was expecting to hear, and I like to be surprised. So I appreciate that perspective for sure. I think it's really cool to think, and I think it's something that people also don't get with Fedi, is that we have this community function. And it's not just for the sake of having we call it like a digital town square. It's this ability to then put your mini apps into that community. And then these mini apps can then be something that help to address or solve local problems. And I think it's a really sort of something that most people don't necessarily know about when it comes to Fedi. We'll talk more about Fedi in just a moment, but it's cool to hear that people want to develop these sorts of things. As a follow-up question there, Maciej, are people getting into vibe coding? Are they talking about vibe coding these mini apps? Are you teaching stuff like this at La Casa de Satoshi?
Yeah, 100%. So the hackathon that happened, actually, you can go see the results at hackathonbitcoin.com. There, in only 1 week, we were really surprised because the prices were not that high. I think the first price was maybe 6,000 pesos, which is around $300. And we received 40 projects, and like really good projects from all over Mexico. And people just love, and we gave them some courses, to how to use AI, intelligently, and to make it. So that's why we receive a bunch of projects that were completely vibe coded, but with some quality to it, not only AI slop. So we definitely are doing this, and I think just last week, you're working also with a girl called Wendy Lopez. She does a lot of AI stuff, and she organized something with Fedi called Build Day, where they basically invited a bunch of people in the community talking about AI, and there was another round of projects submitted just last week. So we're really into this whole movement of building AI tools, building education tools. So a lot of things are coming up from Mexico City in that regard, and
Very cool.
all over Mexico. Yeah.
Amazing. Viv, I saw you smiling when I brought up this concept of vibe coding. I don't know if it was something you wanted to contribute there. Yeah, it seemed like you had something to say about this too. Anything to sort of piggyback on there?
No, it's just it's something that I do actually. I have no like development skills, and I think it's really helpful for people, and even to join hackathons. Like I recently subscribed to one for July, I think, and I think vibe coding is kind of helping me understand kind of how to think, the logic of it, so it can help in the future to actually build things on my own.
Yeah, so I think that's a great point. Vibe coding isn't just for actually building the thing, but it could be an educational process as well if you're actually paying attention to what's getting coded and not just, creating slop, as Maciej put it. Which I think is an apt way to put it, oftentimes. But I think there can be something that we learn from the process, and I think that's a really important and good point. Something to keep in mind for those who are curious. I personally have to say I'm still a little bit intimidated by vibe coding, but I will dive in eventually.
If I can add something,
Please.
I think the way young professionals in Mexico see Bitcoin is really like a way to ascend to another type of work, maybe international work, to have a job from an international Bitcoin company or a crypto company. So they really see it as a way to increase their social status, to make more money. So that's why they're interested in it so much. They really see it as an opportunity to like open themselves up to the world, because obviously the salaries in Mexico are way lower usually than in the US, in Europe. So for them, like getting a remote job from abroad is a great improvement for the life. So I think that's why there's so many interests, apart of obviously from just the intellectual curiosity they have, but it's also like a way to make more money and have an interesting job. Yeah.
100%. I see this trend all over the world, and I think that I constantly speak with people from around the globe about this, and it is wonderful that Bitcoin does things like facilitates remittances or helps people store their wealth, or gives them the ability to transact in a non-censorable manner. But there's this other component there, the social layer and this job network layer, and it's a really beautiful thing to see, because anybody who has it's a good impetus for people to develop skills to then become a part of something. And not only to become a part of something, I think it's different to join the Bitcoin community as a professional than it is to join Google or Microsoft or another multinational corporation, because there is this how can I say it? Granted, some of these companies compete against each other, but there's also this collaborative nature to it. So you feel like you're working with people from around the world, and you have a stake in that because you're holding the asset and you're using the network, the Bitcoin network. So it's a really exciting time, and I think that that's an documented part of this whole Bitcoin experience, this global Bitcoin experience, is people finding work in this space, and then that work also leads to broader community, and I think just a definitely sort of a raising the bar for your status in the world, or your just feeling of belonging in the world. I want to zoom in a little bit more on Fedi, if we don't mind. So with Fedi, one of the things I find fascinating is that in different jurisdictions in the world, different countries, different communities, people value Fedi for different reasons. Some people really love the wallet dimension of it. We had John from Harlem Bitcoin on, and he's a huge fan of the community dimension of it. He also likes the private messaging. So I'm curious, when it comes to Fedi in Mexico, what does it look like? What do people tend to be most excited about? I know we touched a little bit on these mini apps and how they can be a part of the communities that you can build within Fedi, but is there anything else that people seem to be super excited about? I'll start with you, Maciej.
I think they like the privacy aspect of it, definitely. The hardcore Bitcoiners, they like this concept, that they like the concept of eCash. But that's more, I would say, for the hardcore Bitcoiners. But with our latest experiment with the Bitcoin market, in the end, what really mattered for most people, mostly the merchants, that most of them, I would say maybe 60%, 70%, was the first time accepting Bitcoin payments in their life. The only thing that really matters is that it worked, right? It didn't work perfectly. There were some hiccups sometimes with selecting the right federation and all that stuff. But I think that's why we did it. This event with Lorena, we powered basically the tianguis. Tianguis is basically the term for like a street market for in Mexico.
Okay.
The goal was to kind of stress test, does Fedi work in a noob kind of environment of people like coming in not knowing how to use Bitcoin. I would say like half people knew how to use Bitcoin, half completely was their first time. And it worked, not perfectly, but that was the goal. It was kind of to test it out in the wild, in a real life situation. So my interest of doing this event, because it was already second edition with Fedi, was to see if it actually worked, and it worked. So that's what I know from my side, from what we experienced so far with La Casa de Satoshi and Fedi. I think there's still some challenges in regards of how do you make sure the people that use the app stay in the app. So if from the start, Fedi has provided them with a really powerful concept, accepting Bitcoin with Lightning on chain, and it works, then probably they could convert themselves into long-term users for other services or other things that are happening inside the app. So definitely, I think this kind of experiments are really helpful, and I really have a big vision with the Tianguis de Bitcoin. I really see it becoming a big thing, but because what happens, and I think it's a wrong way to approach Bitcoin adoption in general, is trying to convince merchants to you go to a random neighborhood, there's a Bitcoin restaurants that accept Bitcoin. Okay, that's cool, but nobody's gonna go, right? Most of the time, or maybe one person per year will go, and and by that time the employee or the person in charge has completely forgotten how to accept Bitcoin. So that's why I think if we bring all the people together on a like regular basis, every 3 months we do a big market, we show people that Bitcoin works as money, then the people will spread out, the merchants, the people, to their respective cities or places, and then they can be advocates for Bitcoin by themselves, and not trying to convince them one by one, right? So I think that's what Fedi has the power to do this.
Amazing. Appreciate that. That's good perspective. Viv, your perspective on this as well. Did you get any feedback from Lorena? I know, again, we did touch on these idea of the mini apps being popular, but maybe specifically about this event. What did you hear?
Yeah, I think one of the most important things, not just in Mexico, but also in Brazil that I'm seeing, is that the big moment for people is when they realize that they're not just downloading a wallet or like a chat app, they're joining something bigger. They can do something bigger inside the app. So it's like it's more than just sending money, chatting. Is just actually building a local economy, a saving circle, a community hub. And yeah, I think that's where people are the most excited about, because the opportunities and the possibilities are endless, basically.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I think it really is. It's fun. I even was sort of reluctant. I think, it's funny where Bitcoiners are quite audacious. We're here just saying like, yeah, we're going to fix the money. And we just sort of go about that as that's like a normal thing for like a rational human being to say, like, we're just going to go about fixing the money in the world. But I think the other thing that's really hard to take on is this idea of like these messaging apps that exist already. And Fedi gives us this ability to communicate, and it does so in a private manner. And there's this, it takes a little bit to get used to it, but it's once you start experiencing, and a lot of our data shows that once people start using it, whether it's the wallet or the messaging app or communities features, they stick with it. But because these things, people are used to using their national currency, they're used to using WhatsApp or maybe Signal. Getting people used to using something new tends to be the hardest part of the process. And I think we're often seeing that when people do start using it, they're like, oh, this is different, this is better. It shows them certain possibilities. And I think that that's really exciting. I also want to make a note to people listening. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments under the X stream. We'll start taking those in maybe about 5 minutes or so, 5-6 minutes. So please feel free to leave them there. We always appreciate shout outs and just general comments, your thoughts. So please feel free to leave those as well. Be nice. But I also want to go to more specifically Lorena's talk, Maciej. So Lorena gave a talk at this Foro Blockchain event. I didn't get to see it myself. I didn't speak with her beforehand. Maybe Viv spoke with her a little bit about some of the content. We'll touch on that in a second. But I was wondering what Lorena talked about and how it was received by the audience.
Yeah, so the Foro Blockchain was an event, like a week-long event, and also side events all over Mexico City. It was held by a lawyers firm called Layer 2, which are our lawyers as well. So she explained how the app works. To be frank, it was mostly like a crypto event. So what I realized is that people are constantly bombarded with crypto messaging, stable coins, DeFi, Web3. So when there's a Bitcoin message, they kind of like, they never heard about it. Like you would think they will understand. You would think they will understand, but they don't really, because when a Bitcoiner comes in, like Lorena, she talks about freedom, she talks about actually using Bitcoin as money, not just a nice looking remittance app with stablecoin. That's boring. She talks actually about real stuff, right? So people are not necessarily like I'm not sure if they don't understand or it's just a matter of keeping the message coming. So you won't save the world, you won't save Mexico with one talk at one conference. But I think this is something that we need to constantly go and be like, hey, don't forget about Bitcoin. This all started because of Bitcoin, and all roads lead back to Bitcoin. And some people, it's the normal trajectory of, I think, everybody interested in the space. You're a Bitcoiner, then maybe you start getting interested by crypto, all this stuff, but then you realize like there's a lack of soul, right? And then you come back to Bitcoin. So Lorena did great, obviously, but we need to do it more. That's that's my conclusion, right? But
yeah, she has a very convincing way about her as well, so I'm sure it was quite effective. Viv, I want to go over to you. I saw you nodding a little bit there, and also I would imagine that some of the work that you and Lorena do, there is the idea of differentiating Bitcoin from other crypto assets out there, and I think in a lot of ways, to Maciek's point, stable coins are going after the remittance market. Bitcoin can work fine as a remittance tool, even if you don't save the Bitcoin, just transfer it over to your local fiat currency right after, whatever that is. Um, and people will choose whatever they feel like is easiest or best or cheapest or whatever it is. But when it comes to educating people about the difference, or at least messaging about the difference between Bitcoin and everything else in the crypto space, where do you often start?
Yeah, I think one thing that I always try to do, and I'm learning more and more with Lorena, is to start with people's actual needs. So instead of kind of pitching Fedi or Bitcoin as the great problem solver, we just start by understanding and listening to them and seeing what they need and what are their pain points. And then we explain how Bitcoin can make their lives easier and how it can solve that specific problem. Because maybe your problem is not privacy, and it doesn't matter if I start talking about privacy. So yeah, we need to just understand people first.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Maciek, I also want to give you just a quick minute. You mentioned your company a few times. I think it's on your shirt there. I just wanted to give you actually a quick minute to talk about what you do, because from what I understand, that also does have something to do with remittance work, if I'm not mistaken. I've seen some posts about Oreo. Maybe I'm mistaken there, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of time to let people know about some of that other work that you're doing.
yes, I really appreciate it because everything is kind of interconnected, right?
Right.
We also, Aureo is a mini app inside of Fedi, so anyone can just add it because we integrated with the Bitcoin Connect wallet feature. So Aureo started almost 2 years ago. It was called Swapito in the beginning, was a Bitcoin to pesos off-ramp, and we marketed it as a way to live with Bitcoin in Mexico. So any foreigner or Mexican could basically off-ramp Bitcoin to pesos. The way the Mexican banking system works here in Mexico, it's called SPAY, and it's instant. So it's actually surprising. It's really efficient. So I'm still using it. So I could basically go to a taco stand on the street, and people, I know, for example, in Brazil, it's Pix. It's really similar, but in Brazil, they work with QR code. Here, they tried to do that. It didn't work. They're going to try to bring it again. So basically, you ask for a clave, which is like the number associated to your bank account. And I was just adding the clave and doing a Bitcoin to peso lightning swap, right? To pay for anything, to send money to my bank account. Then in October, last October, we received $1.1 million investment from early riders. And since then, we have been building a full-fledged Bitcoin first platform to buy, sell Bitcoin in Mexico, larger amounts. We want to focus more on the high net worth individuals and corporation markets because we don't have necessarily the means to go right after the retail market right now, and we have great features. So for example, we have direct to wallet, which lets any Mexican or foreigner buy Bitcoin directly to their wallet. in a non-custodial way. We really want to focus on great UX, and we have direct to bank, basically the opposite. You can create something like the Tando did recently with the phone numbers. So you basically can create your personalized Aureo Bitcoin Lightning address, and as soon as you send a Lightning transfer to that address, the pesos land to your associated Bitcoin, to your associated bank account. So
right.
we really want to basically be, Bitcoin first platform, built for Mexico, built in Mexico. We have a lot of things coming, but thank you for the opportunity to talk about it.
No, it's great because I think we're all many Bitcoiners work on many different projects and they're all intertwined. And I didn't know, I should have done a bit more research beforehand, but I didn't know Aureo was a mini app. So it's something for our listeners. If someone's listening from Mexico, use Aureo in conjunction with Fedi by using it as a mini app. That sounds fantastic. I want to actually make sure we have a little bit of time here for the community questions. I know we have at least one. So let's actually start with that. And if we just have the one, I'll come back to one or two other questions that I have. But let's actually start with this first question. Also, shout out to our producer. We got Ray stepping in for Mary, who had an unfortunate situation where she couldn't join us as producer. Ray, you've been crushing it. Just wanted to say thank you. If possible, to bring up that question below, that would be fantastic. If not, also no problem. Give him a second. There it is. Boom. All right. Tandi, what's going on, Tandi? Maciej, share 2 things every community builder should consider when promoting Bitcoin adoption. Fantastic. Fantastic. It was an order from Tandi. Just kidding. No, it's a question from Tandi. Can you share 2 things? We love having Tandi here each time. Thank you, Tandi. Great question. So yeah, 2 things every community builder should consider when promoting Bitcoin adoption.
Oof, great question. Damn. Okay. I think you need to be conscious of the efforts it really takes. I mean, if you just do a Bitcoin meetup in a bar every month and you just come and have a few beers, talk about Bitcoin, that's not hard, right? But if you really want to build a community that is involved, that wants to build, that wants to eventually work in the Bitcoin space, you need to be consistent, and you need to have high quality information and presentations being shared. So when you start one, you don't have to go all in from the start, but just being conscious. If you're successful with your Bitcoin community, it means that it will require a lot of work, right? So the first one will be like surround yourself by people that can help you, or there's a bunch of companies that support Bitcoin meetups, to cover the costs. So I would say find the right partners from the start, are like ready to help you out, because doing it alone is hard. The logistics, the follow-ups, the marketing, all of that. So if you can have a team and every part of the team has know their place, they know what they're doing, I think that will be a good one. Surround yourself with, because like Casa de Satoshi is like 10 people, and obviously there's different degrees of involvement, but everybody contributes, everybody helps out the way they can. And it's like a proper balance between all the members and the core members. And then there's like your regulars that will come, because every meetup, maybe there's half of people that always come to the meetups, and then half people that are new, or sometimes they come. So make sure to treat well your regulars so they come back and they grow the community. I mean, that was like many things. Maybe
that was many
I don't know,
things. I'm going to shift the question over to Viv, but I want to comment. I think that was always exciting to have you here, Tandi. You're the best. We appreciate it. One of the things that I think was really important there is, I think, generally speaking, to this idea of commitment. If you're going to do it, understand what you're committing to, because on a certain level, before people understand what Bitcoin is, you know, a piece of how they learn about Bitcoin is going to be the person that brings it to them and the person that describes it to them, how trustworthy that person is, how committed that person seems. Because if that person seems kind of flaky or like they're, yeah, like, let me tell you this thing, and then they don't follow up, well, now you have that association, right? Bitcoin is now associated with this person in their mind. So I think commitment is a huge, huge, huge variable, something that people should consider when they get into deciding on how much they want to take part in being able to work with, how can I say it, how much they want to take part in, you know, being someone who helps lead different people to Bitcoin or explain Bitcoin to them or helps them use it. I think we'll hold off on that second question just for a moment. I wanted to go over to Viv with that same question. So Viv, best ideas for people out there who are trying to build community, maybe one tip from you.
Yeah, sure. So first, all of everything that Maciej shared is essential. I agree.
Totally.
And one thing that I think we should really consider is adjusting the tone, because maybe you're a developer or you have a lot of technical knowledge. It won't make sense to come to like a childhood friend who's not in tech to start explaining Bitcoin by the design. You should start explaining by, like, maybe bring some historical insights, maybe connect with things that are already in that person's life, and then you go from there, because then it makes it easier for them to understand. It's like it's closer to home, you know.
I love that. Meeting people where they're at, addressing an issue that they have. Also, just from a personal interest standpoint, I think it was John from Harlem Bitcoin last night said sort of maybe you're in a different sort of club with someone, whether it's like a public speaking club or a cycling club, figuring out some way for that other topic of interest to be an entry point as well. I think we have to get creative with this stuff. I think we had one other question there. If we could bring that question back up, love to address that one as well. Other than being a developer, how else have you seen people contribute to Bitcoin in Mexico? Fantastic. Love that question. Maciej, over to you.
Yeah, for sure. There's many. So, for example, we mentioned Isabella from Isla Mujeres that is actively building a Bitcoin circular economy, making content, making education, and there's many cases of things like that all over the country. Merida particularly has a lot of Bitcoiners, surprisingly. Merida is a really beautiful city, really safe city in the state of Yucatan. If any one of you has the chance to go, it's really nice. There is another kind of Casa de Satoshi being built there called the White Paper House, and they're tying it with organic farm and this kind of stuff. And I also have a friend called Tructor, and he's the one that we basically merge like his initiatives of educating Bitcoin, educating software developers. So it doesn't really answer the question, but he's not a software developer. He's teaching more about Bitcoin in general, and he has been teaching Bitcoin to students. So that's how we did the first hackathon. You know, the restaurant that I mentioned in the beginning in Cholula, Puebla, is literally called La Carnivoria, and there's a Bitcoin logo in their name. So, you know, just organizing events, so mind like people can meet and just talk about freedom, Bitcoin, all that stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, there's a mix, right? So community, all this kind of stuff happening.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's.
I don't know if you know Paco de la India.
Who doesn't know Paco de la India? No, I'm just kidding. So Paco, I'll give a quick overview for maybe people who don't know him. Paco traveled the world through, I think easiest to say, through like the 2022, 2023 bear market time. I think he kind of kept us all entertained during the bear market. Traveled to, I think, 50 something countries. Lived as much on Bitcoin as possible in that process. People would donate to him and he would spend Bitcoin and orange bill people and do all this stuff along his travels. But just a little bit of background there. Please tell us some more about his. I see you smiling already, so I know this is going to be a good start. I know Paco well, so yeah.
Yeah, there's a great story with Paco because he was, I think I've met him in El Salvador, or my friends, my partners met him in El Salvador, but then he was coming to Mexico. I think it was his country number 32 or something like that. And I told him like, hey, I can help you organize like meetups and everything. And we basically, that was 3 years ago already, or like, yeah, basically 3 years ago. I told him like, hey, let's organize a Mexican Bitcoin Paco tour, and we did. I think we did a meetup in the span 7 or 8 meetups in the span of 1 month.
Wow.
In Mexico City, in Querétaro, in Guadalajara, Puebla, Puerto Vallarta, and we all managed to like tie them together. We traveled by plane, we traveled by bus, and in every city, and we just like came out of it like really quickly. And every city there was a Bitcoiners. Literally, there is Bitcoiners hidden in every place of the world. So if you put like the bat signal, you put the Bitcoin logo, some people are gonna come. And what was interesting is that in every single location, in every single city, there was a completely different audience. So in Mexico City, we did it in the Bitcoin Embassy Bar. So it was mostly the community that was already existent from at that time in the Bitcoin Embassy Bar. But then in Guadalajara, it was more developers, and then in Puerto Vallarta, it was more expats. It was dominated by Canadians, this specific meetup. So yeah, just want to give a shout out to Paco,
Love
and
it.
if you think that there's no Bitcoiners, there's always Bitcoiners around you. You just need
And
to shout strong enough. Yeah.
that's it. Yeah, oftentimes people are quiet about this, and I think oftentimes they are looking to connect with other people who understand Bitcoin. They might feel even a bit lonely, but I think, as you said, if you put up the B symbol, the Bitcoin symbol, the bat symbol, people will come out of the woodwork. And Paco is the perfect sort of personality to get them to come out of the woodwork. So, shout out to Paco. I think he just reached his Geyser Fund goal of he's going to be publishing a book on some of his travels. I've had the privilege of reading the first few pages of that book, and it promises to be quite entertaining. So keep your eyes open for that. I think it's called Proof of Work. I think we had one or two other questions. Let's get to the next one. I think we'll take one more question if possible. Yeah, and then we'll get to wrapping it up in just a moment. Here we go. Is Bitcoin actually usable for day-to-day purchases in Mexico today, or is it just for savings? So I'm going to add a little bit onto that. I think if I could set you up here, Maciej, a little bit to maybe touch on a little bit of what you talked about earlier with the sort of fiat to lightning rails that exist. So even if a merchant doesn't necessarily accept Bitcoin, can you still spend it? So just wanted to kind of add a little caveat there. Maybe you can reiterate one of the points you made earlier.
Yes. I actually forced kind of Obi to go on my podcast, and we talk specifically about that.
Mm,
Uh, so you know the 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 way I see Bitcoin adoption, at least for the next few years, is that you cannot force people to accept Bitcoin, but you can make it really easy for the ones that do want to spend their Bitcoin to spend their Bitcoin. And that's why we started our own company, because we were Bitcoiners. I was receiving at that time a salary from Bitrefill. Uh, Bitrefill is a great company, to make life living on Bitcoin and other cryptos easy. But I was receiving my salary 100% in Bitcoin, so I needed a good off ramp. And at that time, there was not even one option that let you off ramp with Lightning, right? That's what you want. Where you want a way to receive pesos in your bank account, or to pay a merchant, or to pay your rent in a second using Lightning without hassles. So yes, as you said, I think before a wider adoption, I think we just need to make sure that a Bitcoiner that travels or lives in his own country, he always can spend his Bitcoin, right? And I know it's cheating; it's not real paying with Bitcoin, but for the Bitcoiner, it is, because you're living on the Bitcoin standard. You're not
right.
holding fiat until the last moment. Coming back to the question, to be honest, like the places that you can pay with Bitcoin in Mexico are really low, but there is a network of people that you can use Bitcoin between yourselves. Like, for example, just small example, sometimes at La Casa de Satoshi, we go for tacos, but this taco place only accepts cash. So sometimes there's like 15 people, maybe 2 people have cash. So the person pays for everyone, and everybody gives them back the money they owe them in Lightning, right? So it's little things like that, and solutions like Aureo, for example, that lets you off-ramp your Bitcoin to pesos really easily. And there's some projects like Isla Mujeres where you can actually pay directly the merchant. So still a lot of work to do, but with there's a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, great options and great models. So this option to spend your Bitcoin even if the merchant doesn't receive it, and also the model of Isla Mujeres. We can't all keep up with Isabella. I don't know where she finds the energy to do all she does to turn a whole island orange in Mexico, but it's a great model for what that does look like. I think that the rest of the country, rest of the world has sort of a lot of catching up to do compared to that, but I think slowly but surely we'll get there. But I do tend to agree with you, Maciek, that in the next few years, I don't see every business in the world getting onboarded, but so long as you're able to spend Bitcoin, it's tremendously helpful. You mentioned Tando earlier. I was in Kenya about a year and a half ago, and just being able to spend from my Lightning wallet and have that payment settle over their M-Pesa rails, their mobile money rails, which is similar. Pix was mentioned earlier, and I think it's SPAY in Mexico. Kind of the traditional fiat payment rails, or the most used payment rails. To have that ability is fantastic. Now, whenever I travel to a country and that isn't there, I just feel like, okay, this country is in the Stone Age. We got to have some sort of app that allows me to spend my Bitcoin and settle over the fiat rails. There's one quick thing I do want to shout out. We did mention the community function on Fedi, and I highly recommend that people check it out. So I don't know if we can maybe bring up a QR code. It's really important to create a community space, not just because it's a replacement for maybe your Telegram community or something, but again, where you can create mini apps and leave those and have those mini apps be there. It's also sort of, John put this best, who's talking about like a digital town hall where you can leave information for people the same way in a physical town hall you would see flyers for I don't know, information that you might need for something to do in your community, and you could do that via Fedi as well. So just wanted to give a quick shout out to that. And also, if possible, I don't know if we have a QR code queued up. This talk will be not only did it stream live via X, but we will repost it to our YouTube account. We've been getting a lot more traction there. We sincerely appreciate everybody who's heading over there. So please feel free to go over and check out our YouTube account, subscribe while you're there, and feel free to rewatch this. Maybe you missed the beginning. You can rewatch it over there. We should have this video posted within the next day or two, if the latest by Monday of next week. So I think we're going to let, and also, yeah, there we go. Back to YouTube. We are going to land the plane here, but I want to open the floor once more to both you, Viv, and to Maciej. Any final thoughts, any sort of call to action, or anything you want to leave the listeners with? Maciej, I'll start with you.
Thanks for inviting me, and I just want to make a precision. Like, I'm not the only one making La Casa de Satoshi possible. There's a whole network of people around it, Lorena being one of them, obviously. So I also want to launch like a open invitation to Mexico in general, because Mexico is an amazing country, beautiful country, great culture, great food. So if you ever have the chance to pass by Mexico City, which is also an amazing city, please make sure to hit us up so you can visit us, attend one of our meetups. You'll be welcomed. And just come to Mexico, and it's a really nice country, and it will treat you well if you love it.
I love that. Yeah, I can speak to that as well. I was in Puebla years ago. Loved my time there. It's a gorgeous city. Not necessarily one of the biggest cities there, but I spent a little time in Mexico City as well, which was also very, very cool. So highly recommend going to check out Mexico, and obviously stop by La Casa de Satoshi if you do. Viv, over to you. Some final thoughts?
Yeah, just thank you so much for having me, and Maciej, thank you so much for your insights. And for everyone watching, please check out Fedi if you haven't yet. Keep sending us feedback because we're all community built, so we take your feedback and move over to product and make the updates that we need to make the infrastructure the best possible. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Yeah, we do listen to this. I want to shout out, I don't know if he might be listening, Kevin Negocios. I think he's based in Latin America. I'm forgetting which country off the top of my head. But this week on Twitter, he shared a really cool illustration of the ways in which we're trying to make Fedi. You know, there's a lot of features in Fedi, so it's hard to streamline everything, but we're doing our best to make it as usable as possible. We want people to not feel intimidated. We want them to feel empowered by the amount of features we have, but to not feel overwhelmed by them at the same time. It's quite a balancing act. Our developers are working hard on it, and we're taking all of your feedback into consideration. Maciej, Viv, to all of our listeners, thank you guys. Thank you both for joining us today. This has been a pleasure. Maciej, continued success with Aureo and with La Casa de Satoshi. I hope to visit one day in the near future. And again, to all of our listeners, we sincerely appreciate your time and attention. As always, we hope you enjoyed the broadcast, and we will see you all again next week when we run it back. Take it easy, everybody, and we will talk soon.